Good afternoon and welcome to the weekly webinar series with the Kentucky Small Business Development Center. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Janet Flaw. I'm with the Louisville Center, which is one of 10 centers across the Commonwealth providing service to all 120 counties. If you're not familiar with the Small Business Development Centers, or SBDCs for short, allow me to share just a little bit of information with you. We provide assistance to entrepreneurs like yourself, regardless of what point you really are in the life cycle of your business. So if you're just starting out, we can assist with market research, business plan development, loan packaging. We have folks to help with that, help you find some startup capital. For existing businesses, we can help you grow, whether it's hiring your first employee or finding capital to expand your operations, or maybe you need help with finding help with cash flow, or you want to pivot your business. We have folks that can help with that. Or if you're ready to retire and you want to sell your business, or maybe you're ready to move on to the next exciting thing, we have plenty of folks that can help with that. Our professional staff has a wide array of knowledge and experience in various industries, which allows us really to offer more customized experience to meet your particular business needs. We do this all at no cost, thanks to the U.S. Small Business Administration, which co-sponsors our program, which is then administered by the University of Kentucky in partnership with regional universities, community colleges, and other economic development agencies. And we're also part of a national network, America's SBDC, which means there's a small business development center to serve everyone in every county in the United States. So if you want to learn more about us, because you haven't heard enough from me yet, you can visit our website. It's KYBizHelp. It's KYBIZHELP.com. There you'll find additional resources to help start, fund, and grow your business. You'll also find the socials that we're on. So find your favorite and connect to stay up to date on news, services, and events. You can also request personal assistance. You can go ahead and email info@kybizhelp.com or call 1-888-475-7232. We're recording today's webinar, so you'll get a copy of that later in the evening. If you have problems with the audio or you just need to step away, know that you'll have access to the entire recording later on today. Moderating today's event are my fellow staff members from the Louisville Center, Dave Etkin, the director, and Tony Sears, our assistant center director. Good afternoon, guys.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
So welcome everybody to our weekly webinar again. And with me today, as always, is Tony Sears. Tony, how are you today?
Hi, Dave. Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard.
As always, if you have a question, comment, please put it in the chat and we'll get to it as soon as we can right towards the end of the presentation today. So today is a big day. So today we're going to try to answer a question that many small business owners have been asking themselves, including us. How do I start to sell my products and services online? And how do I really ramp up my e-commerce revenue? So today, we have enlisted the help of two very special experts from VIA Studios here in Louisville to help us explore this question. VIA Studio is a well-known digital marketing strategy and development company, and with me is Jason Clark, the president. Say hello, Jason.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here.
And Nick Wunderland, who is an expert in data analysis, analytics, and campaign planning. And say hello, Nick.
Hey, everyone.
So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to you guys because we've got a lot to talk about today, and I'm really excited to hear and learn a little bit. So with that, let's go.
Great. Okay. I'm going to hit the start presentation button and hope it works. If it doesn't, I hope our friends at SBDC will help us make that work. So we've got about 30-40 minutes of conversation, and then as much time as you need on the back end for questions and answers. We were asked to present on getting started with e-commerce, and there's a lot to consider with e-commerce, and I'm sure there's a lot of different types of businesses here. So we want to give you a general overview of the landscape, and then get specific at the end if we need to. So that's what you'll be hearing today. So a little bit about VIA Studio. We were founded in 1996, primarily as a web design company. And since then, in the last 24, almost 25 years now, we've really grown into a fully developed marketing, branding and web development agency. So that gives us, we've got really 4 disciplines at the office. That's our accounts team, our strategy team, design and development teams. And from there, we put teams together for our clients for different types of marketing and advertising initiatives. So a really well-rounded set of expertise for our clients. Our clients are large and small. We don't necessarily have a specific amount of revenue that a company needs to have to be a client. We really are proud of the nonprofits and the small businesses that we serve just as much as the bigger businesses that we serve. The way that we see the landscape and the things to consider when developing your business and developing a brand is kind of a 5-phase approach. One is brand strategy. That is uncovering your core messaging, your unique value to your audience, a little bit of clarification of how you differentiate from your competition. Brand identity is how you present yourself with your visual and voice. So that's logo, that's your voice and tone, how you talk to your audience. Content are the things that you're able to share with your audience and your customers. So I'm sure you know with social media and the landscape, it's a lot more diversified than it was 20 years ago when there were just a few channels in which to market to an audience. From there, website, we consider that the hub of your marketing efforts for the most part. So whether that's e-commerce or just for services companies, a lot of time that's just general vetting if someone wants to do business with you. And once that's all solidified and as straight as possible, we go into marketing, advertising, and other types of services for our clients. What we're talking about today with e-commerce and website fits into a larger landscape of what we consider and how often you should be considering different types of activities for your brand and for your marketing. And that really starts with your brand strategy, your identity, and your core messaging. Those are assets for your business that we feel like should last at least 5 to 10 years. Whereas your website and the things that you use to market yourself should last 4 to 5 years. Longer if you continue to evolve and develop those, and shorter if you're more trendy or timely with what you do. And then it gets more granular as you kind of roll up to weekly responsibilities. So many times we get asked to build a website, and kind of that foundational element of brand strategy, identity, and core messaging aren't necessarily solidified yet. So we do a lot of work to help people develop that message before we get to the website. And that really, if you've ever tried to build a website without those things, you know how difficult that can be because you have to develop those at the same time you're developing a website. So we always start from a strategic perspective with how we do these types of things. So we want to make sure the goals are clear. So when you build an e-commerce website, these are the kind of the top things that have to be considered when you're doing that. So the first one, especially with selling online, are clear calls to action and a measurement plan. Calls to action are when you land on a website, it's what do you want me to do? Time on site, an analytic that we used to use was time on site. The longer somebody spent on your website, the better. That's really flipped in the last few years. You really want someone to solve a problem or achieve a goal or conversion as quickly as possible and then get off to their day-to-day activities. So what we call measurement plan is measuring our calls to action and our success and acting on those and able to improve it. The elaborate unique value propositions, almost all the time someone's deciding whether to do business with you or not. So having clear differentiation of why your product or service is valuable and why you might be the best fit for someone considering to purchase from you. Communicating your brand essence. Again, that brand essence is really the personality of your business, and it creates affinity with your audience so that they know that you're a good fit. And sometimes that's the only thing that differentiates you. A good brand essence should have a clear audience and a clear value and a clear personality, because not everyone is going to do business with you. So you want to create more loyalty with the people that do business with you, so that they stay loyal. And then organizational clarity. This might be the first thing that you see on a more corporate site, but this is kind of the last big goal, is to help folks understand who you are, what you do, any other types of affinities that you want to create with an audience. So, and then kind of this bottom line here: educate and entertain, engage, and enchant. Those are the types of things that we consider to help an audience want to do business with you. And those are also the types of goals that we consider when we develop content or a page. What are we trying to do? Do we want to educate you? Do we want to entertain you? Do we want you to engage? Or do we want you to make you feel a certain way? So I know this isn't specifically e-commerce. We'll get to there, but these are considerations for your business that we feel like leads to successful e-commerce. So our web development team has a highest set of values, and this is also part of how we position ourselves. We address challenges. Our goal really is to make your life easier. And second there, we focus on function first, then form, which means we make it work, then we make it beautiful. You've probably seen these kind of values in development firms and other places. We like to automate processes that are manual and cumbersome. The digital landscape is very sophisticated these days. So making sure that something that happens on your website funnels into a CRM system or Salesforce or MailChimp or any type of other back-end tools that you use to run your business. Our development team gets a lot of pleasure out of making people's lives easier there. We like to inherit work and improve them. And we like to write code that's extensible and easy to maintain. I'm sure anybody that's built a website has probably run into the situation where they have to hand it over to somebody else and they just really have to blow it up and start over again. That's kind of the last case scenario that we like to have for our clients. So what we'll cover today is, so first, how can e-commerce help my business model? What needs to be considered before opening an e-commerce shop? What platform do I use? There's so many options right now, and I'm sure if you've never set up e-commerce or done any research, it's very confusing. How do I drive customers to my site? And then after everything is set up, you've sold a few things, how do you continue to improve your e-commerce presence? All right, so how can e-commerce help my business model? So some of these are obvious, and I know the pandemic has raised the awareness of this in the past couple months, but obviously safety is the first thing. There's so many small businesses that I've seen that have tried to institute some type of touchless payment process and delivery process. Some other considerations here, though, is building and communicating with a loyal audience. What we have seen from our data and analytics from all of our clients is that people respond. You create loyalty by binding them to your digital presence, whether that's an email list, social media. So when someone buys from you, they're giving you information, and most of the times they're also giving you their permission to communicate with them over digital channels. And believe it or not, I know it's real trendy to complain about email now, but an email list is the most valuable thing that you have digitally. That's the thing that we see for every type of client that we have. that converts the best. So much so, we used to manage the Lebowski Fest e-commerce, if you remember Lebowski Fest. And every time they would send out an email with new t-shirts, they would crash their website because so many, they would get $20,000 worth of orders in about an hour. So when Lebowski Fest really started to take off, we had to really back up their site with a lot more resources when we saw that start to happen. Additional revenue types, and I've seen this working with the Louisville Independent Business Association, is there are types of there are revenue streams for things like services and new products that are hard to consider. You're in the middle of organizing your business and thinking about revenue streams isn't necessarily top of mind. One specific example that we talked about a couple weeks ago was a massage parlor, personal massage, and they were asking about different revenue types. And if you have a loyal audience, why wouldn't they want to have a subscription? It helps them plan and schedule when they're going to get that type of work done. And it's a set it and forget it kind of thing. We call those a nickel machine. Obviously, brick and mortar sales, you've got a lot of competition with Amazon these days, so it's time to get on the bus with e-commerce. And then last and definitely not least is the data that you collect. Almost everything digitally is trackable, and so the more data that you have about how people do business with you, the better. And after you've got a wealth of that knowledge and that data, you can make more informed decisions about how to run your business. Okay, so I'm going to hand this over to Nick Wunderland. He's a strategist here at VIA. He's been a wonderful addition to the team in the time that he's been here, and he handles a lot of this type of work for a number of our clients, and he is going to present for a little while now. Nick, take it away, buddy.
Thanks for the intro, Jason. As Jason talked about in his intro, it was a lot of the higher level business decisions relating to e-commerce, how VIA functions as an agency, the role that e-commerce can play, and some of the benefits. So what I'm really going to focus on is some of the nuts and bolts of e-commerce, because I imagine a lot of the attendees today are either in the process of getting their e-commerce options set up, have existing e-commerce systems in place, and are maybe looking for optimizations. But this section of the presentation will really focus on the nuts and bolts of that. So a quick overview of how an e-commerce system really functions. This flow chart is from the customer to your e-commerce platform, which would be your website. Your payment gateway and your payment processor, which we'll cover in the next slide, are the two systems that handle not just the transaction of money, but signaling to your system that a product, good, or service has been paid for, and you can go ahead and send that out to them, or schedule a service appointment or what have you. And then last is the bank, where your money goes at the end of the day. So these systems all flow together, and this is really kind of the 35,000-foot view of how an e-commerce system functions. So like I just mentioned, an important part of this, and one of the more confusing parts, is this difference between a payment processing system and a payment gateway system. I have the definitions here on the slide, but an analogy that I like to use is thinking of this as a toll road, where your e-commerce system is the toll road itself. The good is a user getting from point A to point B, but at some point they have to pay to use that. So the payment processor would be essentially the toll booth. They are the one, the transaction is handled in the toll booth. And then the payment gateway would be that operator saying, okay, come to the toll booth, you have given me your money, the transaction has been completed, you can go along your way. So the payment processor is the system that handles that transaction between your customer and their bank or credit card and your e-commerce platform to handle the transaction. The payment gateway is the system that tells you and your team this payment has been processed, it's approved, they've paid for their good, now it's time to go ahead and deliver it or schedule service. So it's something that I regularly have to make sure I'm not using these two interchangeably, but it's just something to keep in mind that these are often overlooked systems when setting up e-commerce. So payment processor options, there's a ton of options out there. We wanted to cover some of the more popular, more widely used systems. I'm sure everyone here has heard of PayPal. Some additional ones that we use would be Stripe and Authorize.net. So as you see on the slide just beneath the company name, this 2.9% plus 0.3, this is the fees. So payment processors, while handling that transaction, they take a little bit off the top. So that's something that you need to keep in mind when setting that up and when managing your books, is that 2.9% of the sales plus an additional 30 cents are going to go to your payment processor. So you need to build that into your plan. Some of the benefits of each of these, again, these are only 3 of innumerable options, but with PayPal, it's simple to set up. It's really easy to just embed it into your existing website, so you're not having to build a complete other platform for e-commerce to exist in. But it is a little bit hard to integrate well at times. With Stripe, it's very developer friendly. It's widely used. It's simple. It's got industry standard pricing. Like I said, it's widely used. It's a crowd favorite. But this reverse account can frustrate vendors. So how that money is going back and forth. With Authorize.net, their focus is really on security, which I know over the past 5 years, we've all seen countless stories of wide data breaches. You've got to be especially careful with payment processors because not only is this personal identifiable information like names, emails, addresses, etc., but this is also credit card numbers, bank account numbers. So when selecting a payment processor, always keep security top of mind.
And
yes,
Nick,
Jason? Mm-hmm.
let me jump in here for just a quick second. As a service company, we actually use Authorize.net for payment processing because from time to time we have people that want to put very large payments on their credit cards, so deposit for big projects. So we felt like Authorize.net was the safest for those types of expenses. So probably $5,000 plus if somebody wants to put that on their card, which is why we picked that. And it gets less flags from the security systems because they know us well. So drop them back out.
No, that was a great point, and it kind of leads me to the last point is all of these services that we're listing here, you'll see have Better Business Bureau ratings of at least an A. So again, this is more than just handling the transaction. This can be your reputation at stake. So with Authorize.net, you'll see that they also have this $25 a month fee. That's for a lot of businesses, that's not extreme cost, but again, just additional peace of mind. Like Jason mentioned, it's one of the most secure options out there. Another point that we want to mention is this idea of digital wallets. As you can see here on this example page, and I'm pretty sure that most people have seen these elsewhere online, PayPal, Pay with Google Pay, Pay with Apple Pay. These are these systems that, like with Apple Pay, you enter your credit card information and it allows you to pay by phone. It offers a simpler, easier transaction. With something like Apple, especially with their focus on security, it can offer additional security to users. So this is something to consider as maybe a phase 2 item once you launch your e-commerce store, is integrating with these to make your customers' checkout experience easier, quicker, and more efficient. So moving on from the payment processing, the e-commerce aspect is really your storefront. So whereas your payment processing systems are like your cash register, your e-commerce would be like your showroom floor, your racks of clothes or goods on a shelf. So this is where your products actually live. Existing site embeds, so this would be setting something up through PayPal, Square, Wix, etc. Some of these out-of-the-box options. They're simple and fast to set up. However, they're streamlined for ease of use, so they do lack some additional features. They're not always the most user-friendly, but granted, if you're familiar with any of these platforms, you may beg to differ. And another issue is that since your information lives inside this other system, search engines can't always index all of that content. And with e-commerce, one of the biggest drivers of sales is organic search. People just searching for blue tennis shoes or, male's tennis racket. Two systems that we have experience at Via Studio working with are WooCommerce and Shopify. WooCommerce is the most developer friendly. It has a lot of customizations. It's really an open source platform where developers can put some of the systems that they've developed for it, that they have improved their ease of use. They can share it within that. It's SEO friendly, like I mentioned, with existing sites and embeds. Some of that content isn't always indexable by search engines. WooCommerce is one of the most SEO friendly options. It does require a developer to set up. So, if you have in-house development, that's great. If you're working with a vendor, you'll definitely want to make sure that they have the experience and the know-how to set something like this up. Another drawback is they have a lack of central support. So again, since it is open source, a lot of the support systems are through like user forums or user updates on products that they've placed through WooCommerce, whether it be extensions or plugins. So there's really no central library or hotline that you can call when you run into issues. It's more fragmented by the developers that have set them up. Shopify, this is probably the largest e-commerce platform. It's well trusted, it's the industry standard, and it's very well established. However, typically when there's a dominant platform, it's more expensive, and they have higher transaction fees. So, Jason, you want to jump in?
Keep going. I want to append a little note about Shopify.
Yeah, of course. The last item is just those transaction fees and expense. If you can invest in it, it's a great platform. It offers a lot of functionality and security, but again, it's not always right for every budget.
Okay, so one thing I want to say about Shopify, because it is, it's the Facebook of e-commerce, if you will. They are also offering payment gateway and payment processing services as part of their e-commerce package. So it's really turnkey. So it sounds really attractive to just let Shopify do all that work. However, what I have seen and what you all may have seen with the PPP situation has really brought to light having a good relationship with your bank. So if you let all of these big platforms do all the work for you and you don't have a relationship with a local bank, it's harder to get their attention when you need some type of turnkey service. So we use a local payment processor to get e-commerce money into our bank account. And that binds us a little bit closer to our local bank. And, when something like the PPP situation happens, you've got somebody that you can call and talk to. And it's a little bit closer to getting a problem solved that you needed. So I know a lot of people that did business with bigger banks during the PPP situation, and it took them a lot longer to get information and get solutions for what they wanted or needed for their business. So there is a little bit of a risk for letting some of these big behemoths do all of the work for you. And
No, that's a great point and something to remember throughout this. Establishing relationships, especially with a bank, especially if it's local and in your community, can really pay dividends when situations like what we've just gone through arise. So perhaps the most taxing step in e-commerce is the fulfillment and shipping and paying taxes and fees. This is the part that no one really likes about e-commerce. it's great to see a sale come through, but it takes work to get an item from your warehouse, from your storefront, maybe even just from your house to a consumer's doorstep. So this is a step that really typically can cause some of the most heartache through this process. There's tons of options, just like with e-commerce platforms and payment gateways and processors. Some of the most popular ones would be the UPS Marketplace shipping or FedEx fulfillment. So these are, large behemoth shipping providers offering systems that can sync with your e-commerce platform, share data between the two, give you all the information that you need for shipping, even including shipping labels, and can help, arrange pickup and deliveries. This last one is stamps.com, which kind of exists outside of actually doing the work of moving goods to and fro. But stamps.com works closely with USPS and are really focused on the fees and ease of use. So with UPS Marketplace, some of the benefits there are they have the most expedited shipping options. So if you're looking for same day, next day, 48-hour delivery, they really have the most options for you there. They have shipment tracking. I know along with most people, when you order a product, you're immediately checking your email, you're refreshing it, looking for that tracking code so that you can watch it come from, say, California to Indianapolis to Louisville to your doorstep. So I know I get a lot of enjoyment tracking a package, and a lot of users do. So it's always nice to be able to offer that tracking. Some of the cons with the UPS, though, are fees and surcharges can increase on heavier packages, and they do not offer free Saturday delivery, which I know, especially with the expectations that Amazon are really setting, people are looking for packages on just about any day of the week now. With FedEx, again, with tracking, they really are the industry standard. FedEx has the best tracking of any of these carriers. And, it's important to keep your users and customers updated on the status of their package. Their platform is also extensively built out and easy to use and integrate with your website. There's tons of support. So, not everyone who works in website development or running a business is a fulfillment expert. They've got a lot of support to help walk you through this. However, some of the drawbacks are FedEx, that great tracking and support comes at a price. They have some of the higher shipping rates. And there's also been instances of inconsistent customer service quality, especially relating to package status. So that's just something to keep in mind. With stamps.com, like I mentioned, they're not necessarily a carrier themselves, but they're kind of partnered with USPS to leverage their system. They're great for the small businesses that are maybe rent out of your house or apartment, where you can print and attach shipping labels to your packages, and maybe you're just making daily post office runs. That's the sort of fulfillment that stamps.com really offers, whereas UPS and FedEx, they're typically set up to arrange pickups from a warehouse or storefront. Again, stamps.com, though, since they are catered more to the smaller end, they do have some issues. They require entering shipping information manually for packages. So, if you're sending out a few packages each day, that's no problem. But if you're getting into the hundreds, you probably want to automate that process and save some time and allow resources to focus elsewhere in growing your business. Additionally, they don't have as many integration options. So if you really need this process to be automated as much as possible, stamps.com probably is not the best platform to leverage for this. Moving on, onto your actual website and the content that you post on it. You've got to think of your e-commerce product pages kind of like a storefront. If a storefront, I'm walking down the street looking to spend some money one afternoon. If a storefront is not appealing, I'm probably not going to step in there. So you need to keep in mind that your storefront is representation of your brand and your product. So some just high level options for improving the content on your online storefront is, have accurate copy that can properly describe your product. have high quality photographs. In this example, you'll see that, you have your main image, but then you have several other options so that you can get different views of the product. In this case, it's a maxi dress. You want your data to be well structured for search engines to index. So this includes, making sure that you have headlines and appropriate content under here. In this example, you'll see that there's some tabs for descriptions, details, size chart. Google can recognize that this content underneath description ties to that. Same with details and size chart. So, it's about that hierarchy of what's the information that we're presenting. In this case, it would be a size chart. The content itself is that size chart. So just having a hierarchy to all that content can help. Optimized for mobile. We all know that mobile, in many cases for many businesses, is eclipsing desktop traffic. And Jason made that point about old web practice used to be you want a long time on site for your users. And now that's not as important as a metric. And in some cases, you want them to be on your site for as little time as possible because you want them to quickly get in and get out and achieve their goal. So knowing that more people are on mobile, that's really the opportunity to focus on lowering that time on site so that someone, if they're out and about and they see someone wearing a sweatshirt perhaps that they recognize and thinks looks good and want to sell, they may pull out their phone, Google it right there, end up on your storefront and want to complete that transaction as quickly as possible so that they can get back to their day or activity. So with mobile, you want to limit any barriers to that transaction. Something like upsell, in the case of this example with clothing, an opportunity to upsell might be marketing shoes that go with this dress, accessories, and pretty much any e-commerce system has the ability to show related products that you can map in the back end to say display these shoes and this necklace with that dress. So look for opportunities to say, if you're buying this, you might as well complete the outfit in this example. Reviews are huge. I know that before I make any purchase online, I'll typically look at the reviews, and my personal threshold when online shopping is a 4.5 review minimum. If you're hanging out at 4 or 3, that's probably not good enough, and you need to check your product and how you're getting it to your customers to ensure that your reviews are increasing. Another great thing about reviews is it just offers more indexable content for your web page. So it's more content for Google to crawl and say, okay, this is a highly reviewed maxi dress. People really like it. It's very flattering in some areas. So that's all content that Google will take into account when determining which pages to show per search query. Virtual tours and showrooms, that's something that we're going to talk about later, but especially in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, people are looking for a greater online experience. And that's something that we will touch on here in a few. And as always, be monitoring how your website is performing in search engines, but especially Google, since they have the largest market share. So now we're going to go kind of on the flip side of this coin and look at some things to avoid. You want to avoid busy or confusing site navigation and store organization. So, there's some logic to it. There's a hierarchy, and make sure that, users can easily get from point A to point B and make a purchase. If you're not sure about the organization of your web front, do a user test. It doesn't have to be super complicated. You can leverage people within your company or friends or family and just say, enter on the homepage and try to purchase this item and see if they can actually complete that from start to finish. Another issue would be minimal or sparse product copy or information. So no one wants to just see, this is a faucet, buy now. They want to know it's finished. They want to know, water pressure, energy efficiency. The more information that you can offer on a product, the better, especially since it's online and people can't physically interact with the product and inspect it itself. Low quality or limited photography. Again, if people cannot interact with this product in person, they are relying on the assets on your web page to convince them to make that sale. So it may be another investment, but if you are focused on selling a product, make sure that you invest in some high quality photography that really shows off the product and makes it look good. If people can't search your website, that's an issue. They may like a certain product, but might want it in a separate color or a different color. Make sure that people can search and find products on your website. And then lastly is inaccessible customer support option. So, people may come back to the product page because they want to return it or leave a review. Make sure that all of that kind of post-purchase activity can also be done on a product page, because the last step of the funnel where it kind of builds back out is turning your new customer into an advocate for your brand. So we make sure that they have a good experience if they need to return it or want to leave a review. So like we mentioned, with more business moving online, you kind of have to get creative to show off your product online. So in this example, a lot of car dealerships and showrooms are doing virtual walkthroughs of a car. So in this example, a gentleman can, hold a Steadicam with a GoPro or a cell phone and literally walk users through the interior of a vehicle. I've seen some options where people can literally say, I want to see what it looks like with a car seat in the back or 2 car seats. And this showroom salesperson literally does that. And then with their Steadicam and camera can show it off, or, let me see how the touchscreen display works. So these are options to consider, especially when selling higher end goods or large purchases to, create some sort of virtual showroom. I know another option in addition to this in regards to car sales is more and more dealerships are offering 24-hour extended test drives where they'll literally drop the car for a test drive off at your house, leave the keys with you, and you can drive that car for 24 hours, take it on a grocery run, see how it works within your life. So you want to just offer more options for this pre-sale phase, especially since people can't typically now go into showrooms, or we're reopening showrooms now, but some people may not be ready to go back out like that. Another example, and this is actually something that one of our clients did, Revelry Boutique in Nulu near downtown Louisville, is they took their physical storefront and turned it into a digital storefront. Now, what I mean by that is all the items that they put in their shop windows have QR codes next to them. So as you're walking by, if something catches your eye, you can pull out your smartphone, scan the QR code next to that product, and it pulls up that product's page on their website so you can order it right there. And again, this is just, to minimize contact, especially as not everything may be open right now, or some people, may have some hesitancy about getting out in public and going into a shop or a store. This is an option to just provide that less contact and, make sure that your customers feel safe and comfortable, because we're all at varying levels of getting back out into the public right now. And as we mentioned, Google search really is the primary driver of traffic for e-commerce. We have just a few bullet points that you need to consider when setting up your e-commerce store. This is not to say these 5 items are the only things that you need to do, but these are kind of some of the big ticket items to make sure that your store doesn't just exist, but you can get people to it. So one thing is focus on just one product per page. This is not to say that, shoes that come in 5 different colors need a page for each color option. We've all seen on Amazon and other retailers where you can click through the colors. But there are some e-commerce websites that I've come across that will list multiple actual separate products. It may be different faucets all from one brand, but just limit it to one product per page. Avoid cluttered and complicated URLs. I hope everyone can see that example. If not, take a look when this presentation is shared later this evening. But in this example, we've got example.com/category !equals 123 /product equals 456. You don't want that. You want your product page URL to be something like example.com/clothing/shoes/ like Air Jordan 11s. something that when a user reads it, they can actually see the hierarchy, and it should reflect the navigation of the store itself. As I've mentioned, you want to have high quality product images, but you also want to make sure that these images have alt text. What alt text is it's a bit of metadata that describes an image to a search engine. So when search engines index images, they can tell that it's an image. They can't always tell what exactly that image is. So alt text is just a little bit of copy that accompanies it for search engines to say, this is a picture of black Nikes. Alt text is also helpful because website accessibility is a big deal that a lot of companies are investing in. So if a blind user is accessing your website and using a screen reader, the screen reader will read the alt text to describe the image as well. So it's got kind of double benefits of helping with search engine, but also helping with accessibility for users. As mentioned, ensure your user reviews can be indexed by search engines. Some review services will just drop reviews in as an iframe, and Google can't index that. So all that great content-rich review copy is lost to search engines. So when you are onboarding a review service, make sure that review content is indexable by search engines. And then lastly is leverage Google for Retail. Google for Retail is the service that fuels Google Shopping. I don't know if anyone's ever searched, say, like a weed whacker in Google, and before the results, you see a bunch of product images with prices that link out to pages where you can actually buy them. That's Google Shopping, and Google Shopping is powered by the service Google for Retail. So Google for Retail is the business end, Google Shopping is the user end. But it will put your products above other websites, and it makes it really easy for users to access them. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jason to walk through an example of optimizing product pages for Google. So with that, Jason, take over.
All right. Thanks, Nick. I know this was not supposed to be a presentation on search engine optimization, but we feel very strongly about how important this is. I actually stole this example from a friend of mine that owns a search marketing company in Philadelphia. This is a great example of making sure that what people are searching for is what you're showing them. So the importance of analytics and data. I did a search for joint checking account in Google, and this is a local bank. They send you, they're paying, this is a paid ad in Google that they're sending you to when you search for joint checking account. Notice that there is, A, there's no information about a joint account, and B, there's no call to action. You don't really know what they want you to do. The next example is, I think this is simple.com. They're tuning the content to what people are actually searching for. So you search for joint checking account, you see a picture of a couple, you see a little bit of a description and an apply now button. So just really simple things that you can do to make sure that what people are looking for, if you have that offering, be as specific as possible. So I thought that was a really good point to make, and to be sure, you know, this keyword in pay-per-click for Google probably costs probably $1 to $7. So if you're paying that much to send them to a page like this, you're not doing enough. So you know that someone is looking for an account with a partner. So a web page like this makes a lot more sense. All right. I don't want to get too in the weeds with this, but I do want to say that all of the things that you can wire up on the back end, analytics, pay-per-click data, search data, CRM data, and social media data, leads to better data that lets you make better decisions to improve your web shop. So if you set it and forget it, I guarantee there's competition that's going to move in and do better than you because they're constantly improving. So this iterative cycle is something that you should really embrace and get behind. What platform do you use? Obviously, there's a million out there that you can choose from for products. We've already talked about these, so I don't want to go too in depth, but PayPal and Square for simpler things, Shopify and WooCommerce for more complicated or sophisticated products. There's tons of other platforms to consider. These are just the ones that we see the most success from. And then we could probably do a whole nother conversation and webinar about multi-channel integration. But at this point, Amazon, you can sell your products on Amazon. You can sell your products on Facebook and Instagram and some of the other social channels. How to wire those up? Some are fairly automatic. If you use a big behemoth like Shopify, be aware of the pros and cons there. And then some might require a little bit more development from your team or from an agency like ours to integrate. But if you want to keep people, people are spending lots of time on the social media platforms. So if you want to be there and be able to sell to them, consider this multi-channel integration. And I never want to forget our services companies, because we are a services company and we love to be able to tell people they can pay online their invoices. There are services like Harvest and FreshBooks that let you do online invoices and online payments that are pretty simple. Recurring payments are the jam when it comes to services because it's easier for your customers and it's easier for your revenue streams. All right. I think we're ready for questions. Our friends at SBDC, I think they're going to moderate this. So,
Oh, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Jason and Nick. So, Tony, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do, Dave. My first question comes from Emily. Emily would like to know more about touchless pay. So you all's opinion and information on touchless pay, she would very much appreciate.
Okay. I guess I'll take this one, Nick. You can interject if there's anything I don't hit. Touchless pay is really mobile shopping. So if the focus there is making sure that your e-commerce store is mobile friendly on a phone, and you have some type of process on the back end to get your product to them without touch. So I live in Clifton. We love Red Hog Butcher Shop, so we eat dinner there. They've got a payment processor set up with what was the platform? Heartland Payment Systems. We make the order there. We submit it. They tell us what time to be there, and they'll set it outside for us. So it's not a specific platform. It's more of a process. So make sure your site's mobile friendly, and make sure you have a way to communicate how you're being touchless.
Cool.
If I can add on there real quick, we talked about those digital wallets, Apple Pay, Google Pay. Those also can allow you to do in-person touchless pay. I know some credit cards offer it as well, but when it comes to brick and mortar sales, that's that idea where you can take your phone and literally touch it to the terminal and the transaction is completed. So it can be both online or in person. You just have to make sure that you have the proper hardware or back-end systems to achieve it.
Cool. I got a question. So if I'm just beginning to sell, jump into e-commerce and sell online, there's this whole big question that I hope you can answer on sales tax. Do we collect sales tax in Kentucky? What if I'm selling to somebody in Philadelphia? Do I collect sales tax there? Talk about that a little bit.
You want to go, Nick?
And this is beyond the scope.
Yeah.
Good question.
So typically sales tax is handled by your payment processor, payment gateway, and e-commerce systems. It typically, the sales tax that is applied is where the transaction actually takes place. So if you're a business based in Kentucky and selling to someone in Philadelphia, for example, they're going to pay our 6% sales tax. But this is something that when you do set up your systems, you want to just make sure that that information is being accounted for, and your systems are communicating amongst each other to make sure that you're not falling in trouble for not collecting sales tax on goods.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a danger when you're using something like a PayPal or a Stripe embed just to say, hey, click this button, go to PayPal, pay for it. It's easier for things like sales tax and shipping to slip through the cracks there. So be careful.
Mhm. And something you definitely want to invest in upfront, because no one wants to get a letter from the IRS.
Right.
That was a good question, you all. You all are troopers. Thank you all. So I have another question. Victor wants to know, and I think this would go to Nick, I think. Do the payment processors or gateways talk to accounting software like QuickBooks?
Yeah. So this is something that we're actually trying to help a client of ours solve, where their payment processing and gateway are ending support for their accounting software. So when you are onboarding it, that's just something that you need to be considering is, what do I use on my end? Is it Intuit QuickBooks? And does that integrate with my systems, or do my systems integrate with my accounting software? Most of these larger options, they have sales staff that help you through onboarding. So that's definitely a question that you want to raise there, whether it's onboarding or pre-purchase. But yes, my recommendation would be make sure that you're using a large platform that these e-commerce and payment systems are going to invest in integrating with. And then just as part of your research, make that a line item to check for when trying to find a vendor.
I will also add that QuickBooks also does have its own payment gateway. So there are some vendors that I know that charge for services through QuickBooks, and you can pay online on QuickBooks website. So it's a really bad user experience. As a designer, I hate it, but it works.
Okay. So speaking of payment processors and gateways, the next question is, would you recommend having your payment processors deposit funds into a bank account separate from the company operating account?
I saw that question come through, and I think that's a great question. As a business owner, as you know, the cleaner your books are, the better. So if you do have a revenue stream that's brick and mortar and a revenue stream that's digital, I would definitely recommend keeping those separate and then reconciling those with your CPA or your own whatever backend system you have. It gets real ugly when shipping and taxes are calculated differently. So yeah, the cleaner the better.
Okay.
So I have a question, and we were talking about this before we jumped on today, and that's about the question about Facebook shops. Can you guys talk a little bit about that a little bit?
Sure. Jason, you want to take that one?
Well, I'll take a little bit of it and just say that that world is opening up very fast right now. There are some integrations that can happen on the Facebook platform. On our Facebook page, we've got a couple T-shirts that we sell through a third-party vendor, and it's honestly fairly simple. Facebook just asks you to put the links to the shop pages and publishes those as products on its site, and it hops off. But Facebook is also trying to get into the payment gateway world. They want to own the world. So they're developing those things very quickly. I think if you wanted a quick and easy integration there, probably Shopify, because they have automated ways to do that right now. Everything else at the moment is a little bit more complicated, thus expensive. But I feel like that's the thing that's changing the fastest in this landscape. Instagram is hot on the trail there, and there's a lot of our clients that are getting into Instagram shopping too. So I hope that's not enough of a non-answer, but again, we could do a whole nother webinar on social media payments and shops.
And if I can just piggyback on that, if you are seeing a lot of your sales come from Facebook, whether you're advertising or just promoting your content organically, it can be a good idea just to remove that step in the user process. But to Jason's point, it all depends on the integration, how much resources you have to invest in that, and what you're comfortable with.
I have another question if you all are up for it.
Yeah, sure.
The question is, what do you suggest for taking online subscriptions?
There is a platform called Harvest. And if I'm correct, let me see. It's getharvest.com. And they do online invoicing, recurring billing, subscriptions, that type of thing. we're actually in the process of moving from a platform called FreshBooks to Harvest, and everybody that I know in the services world that uses that loves it. There's a lot more features there, so check out getharvest.com.
Excellent.
And sorry, one other point: if it's a subscription service, like say a wine box that you get once a month, knowing that subscription services are only increasing in popularity, a lot of these e-commerce platforms are building that functionality in to where, you know, basically is this a one-time purchase, or is this a repeat purchase, which a subscription would fall under?
Okay, thank you. The next question I have is from Alan Rupp. Hi, Alan. He says, when talking about optimizing your content, you suggested to pay attention to Google. How do you do that?
That's a great question. Because, you know, Google closely guards all the inputs to its algorithm and the methodology. So, you know, you'll never get a peek behind the curtain at how Google works. However, when they do make significant changes, they do put out blog articles on their website about what the change is, what it's intended to do, and basically what you need to know. So you can monitor Google and follow their updates. There's tons of systems and services that can help with search engine optimization. Google has a lot of free resources themselves, whether it's Google Search Console, which is really a system that's intended to give webmasters a view into how their content is showing in Google and what they can do to improve it. There's paid services like SEMrush, Ahrefs, Moz. These are third-party proprietary software platforms that will look at your business, will look at competitors, are able to scrape some data from Google and other search engines themselves. So it's something to monitor. It's a tactic that involves a lot of trial and error, but it's a skill set that can be learned. It's a skill set that can be supplemented with software and data. So it really just takes some time to understand how Google works, how your website communicates with Google and other search engines, and being able to read that data and know what changes you need to make. So this is a function that I do a lot for our clients, and it takes some know-how, but you know, it can be done.
Okay.
And just to add on to that, just simply doing a Google search for yourself or your product and seeing what other people see. That example of joint checking account, if you're ranking for a keyword like that and it's sending you, oh my God, here's an example. I bought I guess my car's 10 years old now, and I get emails on a regular basis from the dealership that I bought it from. It's like, hey, it's time for you to buy a new car. We'll buy your car back. I got an email yesterday from the dealership, and they were like, let us tell you the value of your car. And I hit the link. I'm like, okay, I'll think about it. And it just sent me to the homepage of their website. Completely useless. So, you know, there's some like rookie errors that even great big companies make on a fairly regular basis. So just like, what are the intuitive things? That's what we think of as the low-hanging fruit at our agency. It's like, you know, there's so many like light bulb moments for our clients that are like, oh, wow, that's easy.
Yeah. So I have a question just to piggyback on that. On an earlier slide, you had a list of analytics that you might want to take advantage of or watch when you put your website up. So for a beginner that's just kind of getting their toe wet on here, where would you suggest that they focus? What analytic would be the priority to begin with?
Google Analytics. It's really the industry standard. There's proprietary analytics services from Adobe and other software development firms, and Google even has a proprietary version of their analytics system. But the free Google Analytics system is hands down in my near decade of experience, the platform that just about everyone uses. Google is the top search engine, so they're able to pull more data from their search engine than others. And it integrates really well with other platforms like e-commerce platforms. So for example, when you set up Google Analytics, when you sync it with something like Shopify or WooCommerce, you can get sales data, revenue data, sales by product, sales by SKU. You can view how customers navigate from the start of their visit to completing a purchase. So I would not advise, if you're just starting off, investing in something like Adobe's analytic software. I'd focus just on Google's free offering because, again, in my near 10 years of experience, it's been the #1 platform and the most widely adopted one.
Cool. Thanks. Tony, got another question?
I sure do. This comes from Everett Bracken. So Everett says, we provide a service, not a product. And when consumers visit our website, how he wants to put up a customer service agent, to pop up and appear and stating, how can I help you? He says, and what is the best method to have them schedule an appointment?
Nick, you want to take that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I can get it started at least. There's a number of ways that you can do that. There's live chat services. There's AI chat bot services. So, those can lower the investment because you don't have to have a pool of representatives ready to respond to every chat. Typically, those AI chatbot services will ask a few screener questions and then use that to funnel each customer to the best representative to help them. It's something that is really gathering steam and gaining prominence. I know when I'm regularly fighting with my cable company, I typically like to use the chat option. But it does take some investment to get that sort of system online and functional on your website. Beyond just a developer dropping it in, there's typically service fees to use that software. If that presents a burden, I would just recommend making sure that your contact forms are readily accessible, and make sure that you're regularly checking that, so that while it may not be live chat, you're quickly responding.
There's the one that we really like is it used to be called Zopim, Zopim, but now it's Zendesk, Zendesk. We've used that for a number of clients and ourselves, and it's pretty awesome. And it's the embed onto your website is fairly straightforward if your website's built well.
Thank you. I have one more question. You all up for it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So it says that someone wants, I can't remember the name, so I do apologize. But the question is, what is your opinion on actively soliciting reviews from customers?
Do it. Give them a post. If they're in person, give them a postcard with a link. If they're virtual, send them a link. Ask them. Even I did this once. We had a great engagement with a client. So I sent them and like, please, Google, Facebook reviews really help us. And they rated us 4 stars. And I'm like, oh, no. And they thought, they grade hard. They thought that was a great review for us. What they wrote was awesome, but you expect 5 stars. But what I will say is that if you having less than 5-star reviews is actually more authentic than having all 5-star reviews. So even a bad review, if you respond to it, and you'll see this I think Google Maps has the best integration of this for different organizations. But even if you get a bad review, show that you care, respond to it, don't delete it, be as authentic as you can. And that really wins loyalty. I can't tell you how much that works. So, but yes, don't feel afraid to ask somebody for a good review if they love your service or product.
To follow up on that, like Jason said, don't be afraid of negative reviews. If anything, you can turn them into opportunities by publicly showing we took the step to make this right, to fix this problem. But also, it's just like the data you collect through an analytics system. This is qualitative data that you can use to improve your product, improve your service. And like I said, turn negative reviews into an opportunity.
David, that ends the questions in the chat room.
All right. Well, we don't have any more questions. I want to thank you guys for showing up today and sharing what you know. This has been really enlightening, and I can't thank you guys enough. So, Jason, thank you. Nick,
Always
so much.
Always happy to help.
Great.
course.
And
Of course.
Tony, a great
You-
job as always.
Thank you. Jason and Nick, you all were troopers. I thank you so much for your wisdom and insight. It was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. I know it's been a tough week for everybody, so
Yeah, very much so.
really appreciate your attendance and just help out. So viastudio.com is where we are. We're on all the social media channels, and hopefully we're doing our own work and are easy to find if you're searching for us. So happy to help.
So with that, Janet, got any last words for us?
Everybody have a good week.
And remember, you'll get an email from us with the recording and the slides, or will be included. So we hope to see you next week on we'll be talking about working and selling goods and services to the government. So with that, we'll sign off. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Stay
Thank you,
safe,
Brian.
everyone.